Hi! Today I thought I could show you some of my inspirations regarding art and illustration because it's something that's really close to my heart, and yeah, I love to share my favorite artists with you. I would kind of divide this into a few sections because I honestly draw so much inspiration from so many things, movies and comics and everything basically, as you will see. I think I will just start with modern illustrators that I follow on Instagram or that I have been loving for so many years. One of my favorites that actually introduced me into the Gothic side of things was Victoria Frances. This is all of her 3 books into one. They're all called Fabulae, and they have different titles, but I don't know them right now. It's really classic Gothic art, so it can, for some people it might border to kitschy, but I really love her art style, and it's kind of what introduced me to the whole subculture, so I owed a lot to her. What I really like about this book is that there's also some stuff from her earlier works in there, especially in the back. Like, this is some of her older work when she was, I think, 20 or something. And she's also on Instagram, which I didn't know for the longest time, so I can follow her there. And she's just an icon, basically. It's really romantic goth inspired and realistic portraits, fantasy stuff, and most of her characters are self-portraits as well, so it's really interesting. Another huge, actually the biggest art book that I have is from a tiny, wonderful comic store in France, which I visited with my boyfriend when I was in Rouen last year. And it's this giant book by Olivier, Fairy Worlds, that I really like. And yeah, if you're into watercolor, ink, wash things, it's beautiful. And also the centerfold that I can't put up right now because it's so fucking huge. He's a comic artist, which I forgot. He's not only doing illustration, but also really great French comic art. He also does these amazing science fiction comics, which are great. But probably my favorite thing that he's done is the Requiem series. It is amazingly detailed, and as you might be able to tell from my outfit and my tattoo, I am really much into dark detailed ink things and Gothic architecture. So this is like fantastic to me. There's also a huge double spread here that I can't show. But damn, this book is gorgeous, and I highly recommend that you get it. I also have this book with a lot of artists that I like. It's kind of by 3D Total Publishing, who do these compilation books of artists to like certain themes, and this was Sketching from the Imagination, Dark Arts. This is Iris Compier. I follow her on Instagram, and she does these amazing creature designs. I especially like her depictions of like really old women. I don't know, it's kind of fun and original. And she also does a lot of mere creatures and fae, and it's really cool. Another favorite of mine, which was my favorite illustrator for such a long time, is Abigail Lawson. A lot of you might know her if you're into the Gothic subculture. Actually, I think it's kind of sad that they only published her sketches in this book, because I think her color work is so much stronger, but I really like the shapes and the style of her work, and it's gorgeous. She also does a lot of Poe illustrations and Lovecraft illustrations. I also really like how she does ghosts. It's kind of this flowy mass and with a skull. I really like it. One of my absolute favorites that actually I follow on Instagram and he follows me back, which is kind of very honoring to me, is Charles Lister. He is amazing, and I really like, he's just so unique. Like everything he does you haven't seen before, and it's really refreshing in a world where you have people that just copy the copy of each other. Especially, like, I think I found him through his Inktober, and he just does a lot of amazing creature designs, and he always draws these figures with long arms and amazing shading. I think he did that 2 years ago for Inktober. He's amazing. Oh, there's another page. Great stuff, great stuff. Another pair of illustrators, actually. Not only illustrators, but also the twin brothers of tattooing, Ryan and Matthew Murray. A lot of people probably know them because they do some of the most gorgeous blackwork tattoos, and they're quite famous on Instagram as well. They're also doing a lot of pop culture portraits. Very nice. Daddy Lady right there is pretty cool. Yeah, that's just the people that I know and adore most from these illustrators, but there's a lot of great stuff in here. So if you like dark art and line work like this, you should definitely buy this book. One of my other favorite illustrators is very well known. He's worked a lot with Neil Gaiman, and his name is Chris Riddle. I have 2 of their books. One of them is The Sleeper and a Spindle, the German edition, and it has this gorgeous translucent sleeve. So if you take the sleeve off, it looks like this. And the story of this is beautiful as well. Not only the illustrations, but I think if I had children one day, I would definitely read this to my children, because it's kind of a commentary on fairy tales, and it's full of twists and turns, and it's definitely not what you expect it to be. Here's some little dwarves. And it's a really great book. I love it so much, and I definitely don't regret buying it. And the second one of them that I own is actually one that I attend the book, like the signing for, which is Art Matters by Neil Gaiman and Chris Riddle. But it's just writing by Neil Gaiman, like inspirational writing for creative people and thinkers, and kind of about why their work matters and why you should pursue a career on the art field. And it's very cool and very uplifting, and it's actually signed by the 2 of them, which I really adore. It was a great evening. I went there with my friend in London, it's not only a cool book, but also an amazing memory for me. And Neil Gaiman brings me to one of my favorite comics, if not my favorite comic, the Sandman comics. Had a lot of awesome pencilers and inkers over the years, but it's just not what I personally would go for. But I just think that the characters are amazing, and the story, and I just love everything about this comic. This is not like the whole Sandman comics. I think the printed ones are super expensive, and also you have like different volumes, but this one is the special volume about death. This was kind of the introduction for me. Like I heard of death in the Sandman comics, but I never actually read them, and then I bought this because it was on sale in a bookshop, and yeah, the rest is history. What I like about this is that there is actually a gallery in the back where you have different renditions of different artists of death, especially like this one by Paul Lee. It's kind of more of a painting than a drawing. Yeah, so if you are interested in Sandman comics, definitely check this one out. I actually was heavy into manga like 5 or 6 years ago, and my my favorite manga of all time will always be probably Black Butler. This one is the 11th volume. There's a lot of them. I haven't read. I think I stopped reading at like the 14th one or something because the story kind of got off. But I always really liked the art style, and it's very intricate and obviously very, very Victorian, gothy inspired. This one is actually about inspired by Sherlock Holmes and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle in general. So yeah, if you are into manga and kind of don't mind some silly subplots, like I definitely recommend this. So I think we are venturing like a bit out of the just art world. Like one of the most inspiring things to me is music. So I'm not only inspired by the music itself, but also by the album covers and the album art. And this brings me to one of my favorite bands, who have an amazing illustrator. I can't pronounce his name for shit, but it's the illustrator for the band Ghost. This is their album Meliora. I'm pretty sure you heard of Ghost. They kind of blew up the last couple of years. They're from Sweden, I think. And this is the CD, also really nicely designed. But the real showstopper in here are the amazing illustrations. Each song of this album has their own illustration to it, and it's beautiful. Like, oh, this is just awesome. It shows kind of not so nicely on camera because it's green on white, but believe me, it's breathtaking. So not only music I very much am inspired by, but also movies. I have to say I'm not the biggest movie nerd. There must be something like in the description of a movie that kind of pulls me in, otherwise I won't watch it. But especially as a teen, I was really big Tim Burton fan. And I got this from the World of Tim Burton, which was kind of a traveling exhibition about his work. Not a lot of people know that he was actually also an artist, like an illustrator, next to his director work. And it's really unique. Like, if you see something by him, you definitely know that it's Tim Burton. And there's a lot of, like, he just has this really graphic style to him that is very unique. This is one of my favorite artworks of him. It's for his short film named Vincent. If you don't know it, definitely check it out on YouTube. But also his movies are very inspiring, especially one of my, if not my favorite movie, Sweeney Todd, the demon barber of Fleet Street. And another one of my favorite directors is Guillermo del Toro. I hope I pronounced that right. This is an amazing book that I got for Christmas 2 years ago, and it's called At Home with Monsters, inside his films, notebooks and collections. There's a lot of interviews with him about his movies, and there's a lot of photos of his inspiration house, which is one of the coolest things ever. I mean, look at this. Also, the book itself is really nicely illustrated and designed, so if you're into heavy ornate stuff like I am, it's definitely something you should consider buying. He also has kind of a shrine to the creature from Frankenstein because he's really obsessed with the idea and the films. There's also the inspirations for Crimson Peak, one of my aesthetically favorite movies, compared to a painting by Caspar David Friedrich. On the topic of Guillermo, if you're into Pan's Labyrinth, you probably know that one of my favorite childhood authors, Cornelia Funke, wrote a book about the film and kind of turned it into this fairy tale. I mean, it's already a fairy tale, but kind of more highlighted the fairy tale parts of this amazing movie, and you should definitely read this. But what I also wanted to show you in this book is one of my favorite illustrators' work, named Alan Williams, and I also follow him on Instagram. His name there is just I Just Draw, which is an understatement, and he did amazing illustrations for this book, such as this one. I really like the swirls and the trees and the, I don't know, the ornamentalism of it all. It's so beautiful, and he turns everything so magical. This is the gate to the labyrinth. Let me just quickly find my favorite of this. It's probably this one. It is so gorgeous. Oh my god. And lastly, one of the lesser known things about me, that I'm actually a huge stained glass nerd. And when we visited Ireland with my family, I definitely wanted to see Harry Clarke's work because I knew that he was, I knew his work on the Poe stories that he was illustrating. It's kind of this Art Nouveau, black and white ink stuff. What I didn't know is that he actually did the most beautiful stained glass work I have ever seen. Got this book at the museum where this one window was displayed, and I almost cried when I stood before it because it was so beautiful. This is actually the whole view of the two windows. They're not that big. They're about 1.5 meters tall, maybe. I hope you can see, but there are so many details and colors, and I stood in front of this thing for like 20 minutes and just looked at it. The glow of the light through the windows just added so much to the designs. Of course, I also draw a lot of inspiration from very old artists like like Michelangelo and all of these people that you find in art galleries. But I also think it's like really inspiring to look what modern artists can do, or modern illustrators, because the modern art that you see in a lot of galleries is just not my kind of art, and I think it's beautiful to see that there's still people keeping up the tradition of detail, sheer visual work that gets into these amazing paintings, and it's still there, and that's kind of what inspires me to do with my own work, because it's really out of fashion what I'm doing, like for the most part, for the mainstream, especially in the design world. But I still do it because I think it's just important to keep up this whimsy and the love for detail that a lot of artists had before us. And yeah, this was kind of my showcase of my favorite artists. Yeah, thanks for watching.